where you play, because there might be times where you need to do
made his Origin debut on the wing.
Exactly.
So there'll be all those Origin games on the wing.
There'll be all those times where he needs to make that decision, and I feel like moving away from Leeds Rhinos, which is a culture that he knows, is a poor decision, because, as Kev alludes to, the only person who's really got to dislodge to get that full-back jersey is the 10th or 12th, 10th or 11th best full-back in the division.
Yeah, and I certainly agree with him on that stakes. I wouldn't put Ashton Golden in the top 5 players.
Or occasionally Liam Sutcliffe. Do you know what I mean? It's not like he's got a lot of competition there.
Like you're saying as well, I'm not sure how far he's got to go.
Does this another player that represent negotiating tactics, and they're trying to up his deal with Leeds and trying to put Leeds under pressure?
It does seem like
that will bite him on the arse, because it doesn't seem like Everington's the sort of guy who'll be cowed by that.
Well, he's still there's still scope for him to stay on at Leeds, isn't there? That's certainly a thing. And I hope he does, because for the things you're sort of saying as well, I think it'd be better for him personally as well to just get through this and then get his head down, work hard, and not necessarily expect himself to be in the team every week.
Yeah.
Because he shouldn't be expecting that at his age. They said, Rich said, can you think of any other player who's done something like this? And I was like, well, straight away, Ryan Hampshire. Yeah. And look what has happened to him. He now narrowly avoided playing for Featherstone Rovers, but either way he would have been in the qualifiers this season. Yeah. And last season he was shifted around and ended up having his best games in Super League on the wing for Castleford, and all after kind of stating I'm an halfback and I want to play halfback. I'd sort of and maybe then he didn't commit to learning other positions or what have you, when actually there's a lot of talent in that. And if he wanted to dedicate himself to being a Super League player and play wherever he needed to play,
exactly,
to learn that role before eventually ending up in the position that he wants to play in, because he shouldn't lose that instinct and intuition, because he's going to be playing the game, watching the same tapes with the same players, sitting on the halfback meetings, as well as on the wingers and fullback meetings if you wanted to, sort of thing. Same with young Walker, if he wants to sit in or stay later to do extra fullback training whilst training as a winger or whatever other position they might want to ask him to pull up in. I think it can only make him a better player.
I do. And the other side of that is look at other young fullbacks that are knocking about in the league and look at them using the opportunity to be in the first team and have that experience rather than dictate what position they play. I'm thinking of young McIntosh over at Huddersfield, who towards the start of the season was playing at fullback, and we all talked about what a dynamic runner of the ball he was, but there were elements of his game that needed development, which is, whilst Jack Walker seems like a more complete player than Darnell McIntosh, there are still areas of his game that will need development in terms of understanding how being in the first team works, in terms of the muscle memory of performing week in, week out, and the consistency and the application that's expected. So perhaps for Jack Walker, actually staying around the Leeds first team and being around that vastly experienced group and playing out on the wing and doing a bit of a stint and having some variation in your positions does your overall development the world of good as well.
Yeah, I think everyone's sort of on the same page, aren't they, with this, and think it's a bit of a strange situation and not to anyone's benefit. But maybe it'll be to Warrington's benefit eventually.
Possibly so. And Tony Smith's a great coach as well, so if he does end up there and Tony Smith's guiding him along, then hopefully that will be useful to him as well. Okay, moving on. Salford have signed Ireland international. He's back, Mark. Tyrone McCarthy from Australian NRL side St George Illawarra Dragons with immediate effect. The 29-year-old forward has signed what the Red Devils describe as a long-term contract at the AJ Bell Stadium. Very surprised we didn't get a tweet from Alfred Garnett on this one.
We did, but I didn't, because it was during the week and I was away.
Very good.
I hadn't put together all the tweets on news stories. No, but he sent us something kind of, in his style.
So I'm back in the fold.
In his style, that was basically, I'm going to be a bit of a Salford fan too because of this man crush type scenario.
Yeah, and I found that I was looking for excuses to support a decent side as well at one point. Widnes Vikings forward Tom Alderson has signed a new one-year deal with the club. The former Bradford star joined the club at the start of the season following the liquidation of the Bulls, where he made his debut in 2009. Absolutely nothing against Tom Alderson getting an extra deal there. He's an hard-working lad. So he's
played a lot of games this year as well, which is good for him.
Yep. Leeds Centurions have signed St Helens forward Greg Richards on a 1.5-year deal. The 22-year-old joined Saints in 2011 and made 73 appearances for the club, including playing a role in the 2013 grand final victory over your Wigan Warriors, Mark. Interesting move for that young man.
Well, he wasn't getting any games, was he? So basically, I think he had 2 games maybe for Saints first team this year, and in one of them he barely got any minutes. Whereas Lee they need
forwards.
Yeah,
there you go.
Because they're all old and or unhinged.
Old and or unhinged. Very good. Wakefield Trinity have signed hooker Tyler Randell from NRL side Newcastle Knights on a 2-year contract from the start of the 2018 season. The 24-year-old Australian has spent his entire professional career to date with Newcastle, making his debut in 2014. He's made 44 appearances for the Knights, five of them coming in 2017. Featherstone Rovers have appointed John Duffy as head coach following the departure of John Sharp. Duffy is 37 and has joined the Championship side on a 1-year contract after leaving Swinton Lions. Duffy played for Leigh, Widnes and Salford during a 16-year playing career, has been replaced by his former assistant Stuart Littler at fellow Championship side Swinton. Lots of changing around.
Yeah, big shuffle. I mean, obviously a lot of people were surprised, I suppose, that John Sharp had gone with leading the side the qualifiers, sort of kind of a second year in a row, really. There, but
did you see the statement from the owners and the chairman?
And it completely made sense because John Duffy's Swinton side did play a much more entertaining kind of passing and looking for holes kind of game of rugby than Featherstone were playing. So I see that logic of wanting to put a more entertaining product on the field and thinking John Duffy's an up-and-coming coach. The one thing I do also think, though, from John Duffy's Swinton side was they weren't very good going the other way, and they had a couple of players, I'm thinking of the 2 wingers in particular, Butt and Robinson, who could get a little bit rankly with the opposition at times.
Well, I think it's Robinson who everyone's accusing of diving against the Bulls this weekend.
Yeah, I don't know that footage demonstrates enough for me.
It doesn't demonstrate enough for me either.
But I remember Mike Butt got into it with Willie Isa in the Wigan Cup game. A couple of the forwards, I said, but you're gonna. Maybe that's a symptom of the circumstance they're in at Swinton rather than any reflection of John Duffy, who came from the Leigh coaching tree, I think. But yeah, I do think that he's a talented young coach, and I think if he's got the right support around him to sort of work on the more, I don't know, like
technical defence.
Well, I think it's more attitudinal defence as well, like the willingness to get hurt a little bit more in both attack and defence, in the willingness to fight the middle ground.
Right.
I think if he has someone alongside him helping with that, and I think Stuart Little is a really good appointment for Swinton in terms of consistency for them, and it's probably a good budgetary move as well.
You would say so. Hull Kingston Rovers have signed Leeds Rhinos captain Dan Maguire on a 2-year contract from next season. That had been rumbling around since he'd announced he wasn't leaving, hadn't it, really?
Yeah, and John Scott he gets what he wants. He gets to hate him doubly now because he was the player he didn't like anyway.
There you go, so you get that. Well, there you are. Former St Helens forward. Oh God, we have to try it. How did we ever land on this? Mossy Masoe has become. Do you remember what we called him? Mose Masoe.
Mose Masoe.
Mose Masoe.
I don't know. Yeah, call him whatever.
Mossy Masoe.
Call him that big lump of going backwards forward.
I was going to say that big thing rolling backwards has become the latest new signing to join Hull Kingston Rovers as the club strengthens its hand ahead of the qualifiers next month. The Samoan international links up with Robbins from NRL side St George and has agreed a short-term contract with the club until the end of the season, subject to visa clearance, with an additional option to remain at the KCOM Craven Park in 2018. So, yeah.
Look, he should do well, shouldn't he, at that level?
He should do. We should see how he goes. We did it. There were times he did very well for St Helens.
He had a good run when he needed to find a deal for himself in the NRL.
And
then got off the plane at the other end and didn't rock up and didn't show anything, did he, again, like his deals before in the NRL.
Well, there you go. Chris Sandow syndrome, then. If he needs a deal, he'll play well. And he needs a deal. London have signed back row forward Sam Wilde on loan from Warrington for the rest of the season. Jack Owens has joined Championship club Sheffield Eagles on a permanent deal. The former St Helens fullback was granted a release from his contract at Langtree Park after the club decided they would not offer him a deal beyond the end of this season. He has subsequently joined the Eagles on a deal until the end of 2017 as he considers his next steps in the sport. Oldham Ruffians have landed 19-year-old Wakefield fullback Luke Hooley on a season-long loan. Dewsbury Rams have brought in Michael Knowles on an 18-month deal from Featherstone, and Michael Goudemont to strengthen their back row options, as well as signing winger Tom Halliday from Goole Rugby Union.
Yeah, I don't know much about the other two, but Michael Knowles, I think that's a really good signing. A man who knows the Championship inside out and is capable of performing. I think he's he's on the far end of his career now, but you need leadership players like that, and I think he's a great signing for Dewsbury. I'm surprised Featherstone weren't looking to more keep him, but I don't know.
There you go. So we'll talk about some deadline day moves, Mark, because it was deadline day over the week. We'll blast through a few of these. Oldham have taken Jared Simpson on loan from Huddersfield until the end of the season, also completing loan deals for 8 other Giants players, and Ben Morris from St Helens. So some serious strengthening going on ahead of Oldham's survival push in the Championship. Liam Cooper, Jonah Cunningham, Calvin Wellington and Jake Spedding all joined Sheffield on loans from St Helens until the end of the season. Dewsbury signed Tommy Ashton until the end of the year. Lee Mitchell, Deck Kay, Lewis Hatton all joined Rochdale on loan from Warrington. Nick Rawthorne has joined Doncaster on loan from Hull FC, along with Brandon Westerman, Ryan Jones and Hakeem Miloudi. Ross Osborne moves on loan to York from Hull FC. York have also signed prop Jordan Cox on loan from Sheffield. James Duckworth moves from Featherstone Rovers to Hunslet for the rest of the year. And the Scholars down in London have re-signed former players Ollie Purslow and one of my favourite names in rugby league, Smokey Juna. There you go. Ross Price has moved from the All Golds to the South Wales Ironman. Fraser Morris moved from Halifax to Wakefield on loan until the end of the season. Coventry have signed Paul Emanuele after he left South Wales. You'll hear all about that, I'm sure, on the Bare Necessities podcast this week. It's not called the Bare Necessities podcast, is it?
Yeah, Bare Necessities is the name of the podcast.
I thought that was the Twitter handle. They're not Cov Bears podcast.
That's the...
Oh, I see. Well, you'll hear all about it on the Bare Necessities podcast this week if you're so inclined.
I think we started with the name and then came up with an idea we use it for a podcast.
There you go. I would be astounded if that doesn't get played quite a lot around Coventry. Otherwise. Okay, where are we? We've talked about Emanuele. Jack Logan has moved across Hull from FC to KR on loan until the end of the season. Connor Farrell has moved from Wigan to Featherstone, initially on loan until the end of the season, with a view to a permanent move next year. Isaac Farrell heads on loan to Swinton from Huddersfield Giants. Hugo Perez has moved across France on loan from Catalan to Toulouse for the rest of the season. And Bradford have brought Leeds pair Mikolaj Olejki and Cameron Smith back on loan for the rest of the year, as well as securing clearance to play Willie Tonga. There you go, so some fast-moving deadline day action for you. Widnes Vikings have confirmed that assistant coach Brett Hodgson will leave the club to join West's Tigers. The former Warrington and Huddersfield fullback has been a part of Widnes' backroom staff since 2013, juggling his role as assistant to Dennis Bett alongside being the head coach of the club's academy side. Hodgson won the Man of Steel in 2009 during his time with Huddersfield, and he joined the Giants from Wests in 2008, where he spent 5 seasons following a spell at Parramatta. So good luck to him as he moves down under with his family, I guess.
I can't believe it was 2009 when he won the Man of Steel.
Long time ago, wasn't it?
I feel like it was that long ago, but yeah, of course. He was credited with a lot of the improvements in the Widnes attack in the early stages of last season, wasn't he? So
which stands to reason because he's a phenomenal player.
Yeah, so maybe he'll have the same effect
at West.
With West.
You would hope so.
And he's got experience with working with the younger players, which is maybe what his role might entail a bit there as well. So we'll see.
Okay. John Keir has named a provisional 38-man train-on squad for the 2017 Rugby League World Cup. The squad was announced at Wales's World Cup kit launch, which marked 100 days until their opening group match against Papua New Guinea. Not long until the World Cup. Who's getting excited? There are 6 uncapped players in the squad. St Helens is Calvin Wellington and Elliot Jenkins. The Coventry Bears, Zach Williams. Newcastle Knights is Josh Ralph, and Penrith Panthers duo Caleb Akins and Daniel Brown. In total, the squad features 12 players from Super League clubs, 9 players from Championship clubs, 13 players from League One, and 4 from the NRL and Australian clubs. So that squad in full then goes Lon Patrick of the Castleford Tigers, Zach Williams of the Coventry Bears, Courtney Davies, Steve Parry and Lewis Rees, all from the Gloucestershire All Golds, Danny Ansell from Hunslet, Sam Hopkins from the Leeds Centurions, Michael Channing, Ben Evans, Dalton Grant, Elliot Keir, Rees Williams, all from the